This is just a quick update from earlier on. I've now gone through my code for the edit functions that I did my tests in text and untitled. Untitled being just a tutorial, which will be my bibliography. I've then taken what I'd learnt from those, plus the information from Kurupa.com, which again will be my bibliography, on XML coding. So trying to understand how to lay out my XML. It's a very simple piece of XML. I'll show you that first. It's basically just a parent with additional text function and there's some ID tags. This is just to test out my understanding of XML against what I've been reading. I then went through my Flash file and wrote these functions. As you can see, you really can't read them from here, but it's just me. I'll put all this in a PDF file as well, just so everyone knows. It's just comments. Basically, I commented out everything that I was thinking about, what I wanted it to do, how I wanted the functions to be laid out, and then I cut them apart into the functions and started coding them. I went through the first few, basically coding as I was going with what I wanted, and then commenting as I was coding, just to make sure I had a record, because my paper copies aren't very good for recording that. I went through various ways of doing this. This would be the first style down here, this bit here where it records child nodes with the I, which basically means for the for statement it'll go through and find the child nodes that match that statement. The wrong section for this is that I was going through child nodes again, which works, but it outputs the entire child node value rather than just the contents. So I switched over to using attributes. So now I have to reference them by name, attributes.endIndexXML rather than child node 1. But it does mean that I suppose I have more control over what I'm doing, and it works. It gives me the correct result. Now, I was just doing some test traces for this. What the beginning part of the statement here stands for is to check the selection, to try and work out which of the nodes is the starting point and which of the nodes is the ending point. It starts by working out the node that the selection ends in, so it can find a span for what the nodes cover. And to do this, it's a simple for statement, as I said, which is called by the onPress. And to start off with, the onRollover just logs the start index and the end index by working off the selection cursor. It then runs start node onPress, which is back up here. All these are just test names for things at the moment. And what it does is it runs through and it checks to make sure that the end index, the end of your selection, is less than, well, I suppose that should be less than or equal to, I'll make that less than or equal to, and greater than or equal to. So it's less than or equal to parent directory.childnodes attributes endIndexXML, which for this example is the word hello, even though it's not actually that. So the end index is actually 5. So as long as your end of your cursor is less than or equal to 5, it knows that that's the node it should be, and it saves that and stops the for statement, or it will eventually stop the for statement once it has the start function. For now, it just stores that and gives you a trace just to show that it's working. Notice the trace is outside the if statement though, just to make sure that the if statement works independently. We published this out. This isn't the actual look when you see it of how the edit functions will be. It's just like a little testing area that I'm using. The project's still pretty alpha. There we go. So that shows that basically it's connected to the XML. And what we do is we select those. That one letter there starts at 2 and ends at 2. So I suppose if I select a couple, starts at 2 and ends at 3. Roll over, it's now stored it. Click, and it will export me with 0. Because if you look at the output box there, 0, because it's a zero-sum system in the node system in XML, relates to that there. So the ID is not in fact 1, the ID is actually in fact 0. And that is how it works. It's the beginnings of my system. The XML works. And what's more amazing about this is it worked first time round. I coded it through after reading through the forums and the help posts. And my code, apart from the attributes changing around, was pretty much spot on. Which means that when I move on to the second segment, which is the where it works out the indexes, so it knows which nodes exactly to use from. Needs some tweaking still. It will record which nodes are the end node, which node is the beginning node, and all the nodes in between, so that it can cut segment 1, segment 2, and segment 3, and know that it needs to combine all 3 of them back together again, and then cut them apart. So basically, in effect, you cut apart, you reattach any of the nodes that are selected, so any of the nodes that the cursor's passed through, put them back into one singular node that's now a longer text entry with the 0 class, so it has no bold tag, no italic tags anymore. It gets rid of them all for those text entries, and then puts them back together again. Now, advancing from that would be a case of putting the ability to have those functions back in, so that it remembers the bold that was already there. And again, that's something I can work on still. I'll post some more once I have more information.